Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we're going to date stamp this. So this is year 3, blog 51. Now, if you count up how many weeks there are in a year, you know how far we are from year 4. It's in legacy numbers blog 155, and it's dated the 9th of February 2024. And it's a bit of a late blog. I'll explain why when I get to my sort of like section where I talk about what my week's been like. But I will just say it's been another okay week. Nothing wrong to really talk about. Nothing really that's upset me. Just general life stuff. Having a glass half full means that I would say I've had a more good stuff happen than bad. You can't ask for anything more really in these sort of times. But anyway, let's get the news out of the way. We haven't got an awful lot of time today. I'm hoping to keep this a little bit shorter today because I've got some things I need to help with my mother. But we'll start off with the news and the war in Ukraine. This article came in sort of late last night, early this morning. It says on Friday, a report stated that President Trump called Putin from Air Force One. He reinstated his desire to end the bloodbath. The Kremlin neither confirms or denies this has ever happened. Putin said he is willing to discuss, but not giving up any land. Russia currently controls nearly a fifth of Ukraine land. So yeah, I don't see anything in here that fills me with anything of hope or anything like that. We've got Trump that always said he could come in and end this within 48 hours. We've got Putin that turns around and says that this is his land. It should never have been given to Ukraine. And you've got Ukraine saying, you can't be Indian, give us, this is our land, we've had it for 12 years, and you started a war. Pretty much that's it, and that's why we've been going for nearly 4 years. Well, it's 4 years, actually. So, yeah. If Trump does this, wow. You know what I mean? If there's a happy ending to this, I don't see anything other than concessions where land is going to be given up to Russia. Ukraine will accept what they've got left. I should think that's what will happen. But good luck, and that's my only thoughts on that. So UK Health Minister Andrew Gwynn was sacked due to offensive WhatsApp messages. I'd never understand this. So this is another Labour minister that's been sacked since Labour came in, and they came in 4 or so months before 2025. Probably the mass amount of culling you'll see, all stupid things, and this one is yet another one, and you'd think it might be one of those benefit of the doubt things, you know, where, I sent something stupid 10 years ago. Apologies, I'm a different man now. 10 years has gone by. The world is different. But no, this is stupid messages sent on WhatsApp last week or something. This guy is in the public eye. I mean, surely, every time I'm at work and I've got writing an email, I read through my email. And I tell you what, I pause for 30 seconds going, if I send this, I can't get it back. I'm like that. And I then hit send and go, I think it's all right. You know what I mean? What's this guy done? Send, don't give a shit. That's all I can say about it. Absolutely atrocious. Next article that I read was ex-wife of Neil Gaiman has denied allegations of negligence and human trafficking. Yeah, this started happening last week, I think, or the beginning of this week, about Neil Gaiman. He's a writer, comic book writer, but also a writer that has been has got allegations against him for sex with minors, human trafficking, negligence, to do with people that he's employed that were homeless, something like that. I don't know how far these allegations go back. All I can say is this is where there's a problem, I think, with media, because they publish a story, and this is obviously going to go into the courts, and people will therefore be debating all the time up to those court proceedings and damning a person before he's been convicted in law. Now, I do accept that these things happen, and sometimes it's good that they're happening early, but in this particular instance, apparently these accusations go back several years and have only just come to light. What's the difference in keeping quiet for 4 more months until it goes to court? I do look at those sort of things, but I don't really have any other opinion on it, really. The law will take its course and the guilty will be prosecuted. So the next thing that was on the agenda was Grenfell Tower. The tower that was in the news 8 years ago. It's to be taken down. So anybody who knows anything about this, it was all over the media. The Grenfell Tower was on fire 8 years ago and it killed 72 people. Then there was all the, what do we do about housing all the other people that were in the flats, and they had to go to homes that were around. Hotels took them in for a short while, but there's empty houses that rich people in London have got empty, that some of them were forced to give these people a home until further accommodation could be given. It was a mass exodus, if you think about it, a huge scraper type of old style apartment, and the major benefits that came from it is that we found out about the cladding, and there was all sorts of laws that were passed that said that these skyscrapers had to be reassessed, and if this type of cladding was found in others, it had to be replaced, etc., etc. Now, what's been decided 8 years later is they're going to tear the place down. Now, it has been used as a monument in much the same way as the Twin Towers. When those came down, they didn't rebuild them. They put a plaque. They're going to... This skyscraper is still up, and it's got a big sign at the top talking about the Grenfell project. And apparently they're just going to knock it down now. Sad. I should think it's a very sensitive subject to all the people that live in that community, because it is a monument of a sort. But maybe something better will be filled in its place, a place where people can reflect on their lost loved ones in a much better way than an old building that reminds them that's where my nan used to live or whatever. I don't know. It's very sensitive, I will say that. Other things in the news. Now, this is what I heard on the news on Wednesday, and it sickened me a little bit. Palestinians and Arab states are rejecting Trump's Gaza takeover proposal. Yeah, now, on top of all of the land, the war being sort of like stopped and a ceasefire and everything, Trump has basically said, we want that land, we'll build on it. And we may, and it says may in there, we may let the people who own that land move back in. May. This is a breach of what they call human rights, and it's called ethnic cleansing, which quite rightly the Palestinians and are all up in arms saying, you ain't going to do this. You're not going to force us off of our own land. We want to build on our own land. And then you've got international law that's going in and condemning this, saying you can't mass exodus a population off of their own land. That's like saying, right, England's been bombed, get off the land, we'll rebuild it, we might let you back on. No, you can't do that. That's pretty poor. No. So that was on the news, and it made my skin crawl a little bit, because you've got Trump, who's probably trying to build confidence again in the world. I mean, he's a very much a Marmite person. He's not a person that I particularly like. In fact, no, I don't like him really, as an opinion. You can't just let him just walk over things and say, "Oh, I'll deal with this. Here we are. I've got the money. I'll do this." Yeah, no. You got to do it within law. And then the last one that I've got here is the pound has dropped again on the currency exchange ahead of the bank's interest rate decision this week. So they always make an interest rate decision every month. Do we cut interest rates? Do we raise interest rates to try and stabilize the economy? This isn't really news. Every time that this is going to come around, our currency drops. It just does. There's speculation on how the economy is growing. So, but I put it in because, it tells people what's happening this week. Tells my nephew and nieces what's happening in the week that I did this blog. So there you go. And the last one really is another rest in peace, another childhood person that I sort of grew up watching on TV and loving and thinking he was absolutely marvellous. And that's Brian Murphy. He died at the age, I think, of 92 this week. He was George Roper in George and Mildred, but before then he was in Man About the House, where he was the landlord of the three people that lived above him, the three sort of like youngsters, Richard, Chrissy, Paula, it was Paula. Absolutely marvellous show, which obviously happened in America as well. I think it was called Three's Company or something like that. And then you had the Ropers had their own show, and you had the Ropers have your own show over in the States. But to me, Brian Murphy went on from that show. I never thought he'd be able to shift that character, but he was in Last of the Summer Wine. He's been in episodes, I believe, of Holby and all sorts of other shows. But to me, he'll always be George Roper. His arguments with Euphoria Joyce as Mildred Roper in that show were just brilliant. I've got the box sets. Some friends that that were very close to me, I even bought the box set because it reminded them of what they used to watch with their dad and all sorts of stuff. And so it really impacts me when somebody like this dies, because they were they were almost like family watching these on TV. They sort of like came into your home, and it was almost like having a hole cut in your wall and watching your next door neighbours having an argument or whatever it was that was going on next door. It really was a comedy of the time. And even now I watch these comedies that were made in 1970, 75, no later than that, make me laugh even now in 2025, which just sort of like goes to show you how good the writing and the acting was back then. And, maybe it's because we were a bit more light-hearted about our own community back then. So that's the news. We got that out of the way in a normal sort of like amount of time. We'll talk about my week, and really there isn't much to talk about, really. It's been a work week. I didn't go to work on Monday or Friday because I need to get rid of some of my holiday, which I have to take before the end of February, which is the start of my new holiday year with work. It goes February to February. And I can only carry 3 days forward. So I've booked 5 days holiday, and 2 of them have been this week. There's another 2 next week, and then 1 more. That will be before the end of February. And there isn't really too much to explain. Monday I did a little video about one of my statues. I thought, you know what, I've got a bit of time. I'll set up the living room and try and record a little statue video, because I haven't done one of those in quite some time. And I enjoyed doing that. I'm learning all the time the best ways of doing it, because I use a camera, a Canon camera on a tripod, and basically then I have to learn to do a few little jump cut joins, which aren't too hard to do now with handbrake and so forth. And I hope some people get some great enjoyment, because this particular one is a very cheap one. It's a bit different to the statue ones I've done before, where they were made out of polystone and so cost about £200. This thing's only about 30 quid, 25 pounds, 30 quid, made out of PVC plastic. But what they've done with that is absolutely amazing. The detail on it is incredible. Small, but that's good. You don't need to have great big massive 24-inch statues, or on some of my smaller ones about 14, 15 inches tall. Those are still quite tall statues that they can't fit on the sideboard. Do you know what I mean? They need display cabinets. So yeah, this one is small. It could possibly go on a mantelpiece. Do you know what I mean? But I enjoyed doing that, as I said. And then, of course, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is back at work. The only thing that happens to me during those times is for me to sort out some things like physio, because as you know, my physio ended last week and they've put me on a new plan, and I'm waiting for a letter that comes through that tells me you're now registered and it's going to start on such and such a date. So that happened. Got a letter through. The place that I was originally told that I was going to be enrolled on is no longer available. So it is further away. So I do need to speak to work and tell them when this physio is, because it is during work time. So I need to choose the one that's less disruptive for work and best for me. So you have to weigh those things up. So I'm sort of like need to speak to work about that next week. So yeah, Monday and Tuesday, no biggies, no big problems. On Wednesday, I did my live with Ian Hill, The Ramblings, and I talk about this every time in my blog twice, here and when I'm talking about Ian Hill himself and the channel that he's got. And we had a great time, a lot of people turned up. We were talking about films. There was a number of new releases that week about the good, the bad, the ugly, and so forth. So we discussed that. And, we had a little bit of a rant as well about physical media, and a little bit of a talk about a lot of YouTube activity in regards to physical media, which has been going on now really for quite a few months, really. And I totally see what people are saying, about it. I think you'd be delusional, I think, a little bit in saying that physical media is safe, but it's in safe hands, if you see what I mean. I won't go down the route of some YouTube channels that have been turning around and saying physical media is dead, and I won't go down the route that says physical media is safe. It's in a transitional state. It's no good turning around and saying that it's healthy because all of these DVDs and Blu-rays that we buy are sold out. Because what you have to understand about a business like Sony, Paramount, is that they've reduced the numbers on how many are actually manufactured. So they're playing it safe and saying, do you know what? We've got a world filled with billions of people. we're going to press run 10,000 films and put them out against the world. And I say that number just off the top of my head. I know that there are individual numbered stuff, and for the Britain, I think it's like 2,000 they usually do a run of. So if you were to count that for the rest of the world, you probably come up with 20,000 units, 25,000 units. Now, they used to manufacture these in their millions, and that's how much the industry has dropped. So just to say something is sold out, it just means that scalpers have bought them, and you now have to buy them at more expensive prices. But not only that, you only think it's safe because they're sold out, when actually they're actually manufacturing less than a tenth of what they used to. Now, to play it safe, you've got to have something that goes back to those original numbers. It's not going to happen. So that's what we were talking about on Wednesday. And I sort of like aired on the line of, I totally see where people are talking about this direction, and I totally understand people talking about it in this direction. I've seen this with the comic industry. I know sort of what I'm talking about. So it's in safe hands, and I don't think it will be going anytime soon, but it will be transitioning into something that I hope is agreeable, but I doubt it. It might diminish further. It might increase. I'm hoping on the increase. Don't get me wrong. So that was our little chat, and had a wonderful time with Ian. I love trying to make him laugh. We have little mini rants. My little persona of doing some little rants, and that's just to make him laugh. And it's great because that guy needs some humour in his life. He needs fun. He's had so many bad things happen with him, with his health and all of that sort of stuff. So I wish nothing but the best to my friend, and I hope that his channel continues to grow. And hopefully you can all join us on a Wednesday. We have a great laugh. Absolutely brilliant. So Thursday came along, nothing really to report. And, like I say, Friday was nothing really special either. What happened on Friday though is that I've had a few little issues and glitches with my PC since the last power cut, and it seems to be that my drives go to 100% while no activity is going on. In other words, you have what they call an idle process on your PC, where nothing is happening, but it's obviously doing things in the background. If you have something where your hard drive is saying 100% utilization, but it's not writing anything, it's something's happening in the background. One of the services is running or something. Now, I've done a number of things. I've downloaded drivers. I've turned off what they call the Windows search service. I've changed the condition of the drive in registry to show that it's an SSD drive permanently. All of those sort of things. And they've had little effect. I've even changed the cable out to the drives, and I've swapped them into different SATA holes on the motherboard. What happens is, it happens to either the C drive or the E drive. The E drive is a normal spindle drive. The C drive is an SSD drive. When you reboot, one goes to 100%. One time it's the C drive, the next one it's the E drive. If I unplug the E drive totally, everything dies down. No 100% on anything, which seems to indicate that there's a problem with the drive. But of course, my software tells me that for the length of age that the drive, it's got very little wrong with it. It's where all of my SSD drives are green. It's amber for the terabyte drive, because it is over 8 years old. 2 terabyte 8-year-old spindle drive. So it could be on its way out. Now, I've transferred a lot of the files that are on the E drive over to the other drives that I've got, and therefore it's not even capacity. It's got something like 400 gig free on that drive, but still it raises to 100%. And I've looked at the boot sector, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong. The WMI service is fine. The service it seems to be complaining about is the something called the WBAM service, which is a Malwarebytes anti-piracy sort of like service that Malwarebytes use to keep your drive safe. But even when you turn that off, it still remains at 100%. So what I've done is I've ordered another drive, an SSD. That drive can then be formatted and used as a spare to put some stuff on. I can put it into an external enclosure. And so on Friday, I ordered a drive. Saturday, it was dispatched, ready to be delivered on that day. A map came up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon saying it was 9 stops away. 3 o'clock came along and it said, sorry, there's been a delay, but we'll still deliver it before 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock it said, sorry, it's not going to be delivered today. We'll endeavour to deliver it by, and here's the thing that annoyed me, by the 10th, which is Monday. Now, I work during the week, and the weekend was the time for me to move the files across and do some other stuff with it. So I phoned up, and this is the reason why the blog is late, because I turned around and said, look, I know that there's very little that you can do about this. It's too late in the day for you to try and arrange a delivery today. But when it's delivered tomorrow, I'm back at work, and the first time I'm going to be able to work on my PC is probably the weekend, which means that you've cost me a week. And I ordered this thing Friday lunchtime. It's not acceptable. And I know, and the reason I say that I know there's not an awful lot you can do about it is I've been here before, and you can't do anything until the delivery has happened before I can make a complaint. But what you have to understand with this is, as I said, is that I'm angry because it actually showed up on a map saying how many stops it was away. You gave me an expectation. So I want something. And he went away and he said, I've spoken to my manager and we can do something for you, even though we're supposed to wait until tomorrow. What is your expectation? And I said, well, look, really, if you were to talk to a business, they'd say, give me this for free. I don't expect that. But it's no point coming up to me and asking me what my expectation is. I want to know what you can do for me. So I'm asking you to go away and speak to your supervisor, tell him everything I've just told you, and then tell me what your offer is. So he went away. And he came back and he said, we'll give you a £30 gift voucher. And I said, well, it's below what I was expecting. I was expecting 50% off, to be quite honest. But I know that you're only trying to do what you want. I'll tell you what, I told him this. If you have a look at my orders over the last months or so, you'll see that the biggest thing I order from you is steelbook films and Marvel omnibuses. Can you send me my next pre-order on my list for free? That's what I'm expecting. So he went away and he said, we can't put money on something that's not delivered, that's not been bought yet. We can only give you a gift card. And I said, okay, well, a steelbook generally costs around 35 quid. You've offered me 30. I was expecting half price. So that's within about 10, 15 pounds of what I was expecting. So go to your supervisor and say, will you accept 35? He came back and said, yeah, no problem. I said, I did tell him, but I told him this. I'm still apprehensive. The reason I'm apprehensive is that I was hacked a year ago. And the first thing that hacker did was use my credit cards that are on your system to order gift cards and use those gift cards to spend, because that's laundering money. That's how you make Bad money, good. But the other thing that he did was he took money away from my wallet, which was gift cards that had been given to me by friends. And when I got the money back for the credit card fraud, you wouldn't do anything in regards to the gift card because there was no way of proving that I hadn't spent it myself. And I went, right. So I told all my friends and I told family and that I don't want gift cards, all of that sort of stuff. If ever you get hacked and you've got money in a wallet, if you get hacked, they're going to take that and you've got no grounds whatsoever to get that money back. So I said, my PC, you know, I mean, when I next go to purchase something, it might be in a week's time, might be in a month's time. I'm honestly going to be thinking about that money there. And if somebody does hack me, I know that's gone, which means this conversation that I've just had with you for half an hour goes up in smoke. So, yeah, I said, I'm still not happy, but I'm going to get my, obviously, device on Monday. Late, fair enough. You know, that's what the argument was about. But there is that money there, but I'm also going to be thinking that it's there until I spend it. And that could be weeks or months, and I'm going to be constantly thinking that I could be hacked. So I said, it is what it is. Thanks very much. I thanked him because he listened to me and he took all my notes and all of that sort of stuff. And I just told him, I don't think there's even a scenario here that you could go back to your supervisor and say, how can we fix a problem like this? Because the problem that you've got is not Amazon, it's your delivery team. Your delivery team is not generally Amazon. You hire people, like man with a van type people, to deliver because you've got a huge amount of orders to get out that day. So you've got so many vans and then you hire third parties. You probably gave this to a third party. It's probably not even on an Amazon van. I said, until you get that situation sorted, this is just going to continue to happen. Take that away as a note and say, if you want to better your service, you got to look at your delivery team. They're the team that are causing the problems at the moment for you. He agreed. That was the end of that. And here I am talking to you with my blog. So that's my week. So I hope you can see that it's been sort of good. It's been sort of bad. But at the end of the day, nothing life-threatening. I've done my walks. Physio's going to be coming up again. Work is okay at the moment. Very, very busy. I'm having to take holidays, but that is what it is. That's it. So let's move on to the next bit, which is the shout out, shall we? It's the bit that I like the most, really. It's all the people that basically wish me well, leave comments, and give me what I consider sort of like a quality of life, because I think everybody needs to feel wanted and needed, and the ability to be able to communicate at the same level as you are. So, you know, people of your own age or adulthood. You know, I do have a means to communicate with my mum, but she's, 84, and she is that age next week. It's her birthday. So, on Valentine's Day. So, it's one of those things that I look forward to having conversations and discussion points and all of that sort of stuff with people. And sometimes that happens over the phone. Most of the time it's over text. But I have that ability to chat with Ian, which is why the chats that I used to have with friends were so important, because it enabled me to talk at a level that was new and fresh again for me after only being able to speak to my mother. So, yeah. Absolutely marvellous. So, the shout-outs this week are, in no particular order, Muckman-Movies, Down the Rabbit Hole, Denny, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Steve's Gaming, Wee Bob Art, Martroid, Frank Holder, Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, and Carl Todd. So, again, some of the usual suspects, but of course, very happy to have those. I like sometimes to have some new ones. Shows that it's being watched and all of that sort of stuff. You'll never really hear me turn around and say hit that like button, subscribe, all of that sort of stuff. But I do hope that people other than, because there's people down here that I know will hit the like. If you are watching this, do hit the like button. Be nice for a subscription, but like is definitely something that tells me a lot of what's going on. So after we do the shout outs, I read out the comments verbatim. So if you do leave a comment, I read it out. There are very few occasions where I've had to cut it out, and that's been more to do with stopping an argument or causing an offence that would be drawn back to me, if you see what I mean. I have to look at that because the reflection never goes on the person that's left the comment. It's left on me, and I'm just the messenger, if you see what I mean. So anyway, the first one that's on the list is my mate Denny. There we go, Denny. It's got "Hiya, mate," like he normally does. Not really a lot to add for the last week, mainly work and the current issues I'm dealing with, rearing its head again. Hope to have got things on a more steadier plane, but not to be. Yeah, you said you were going to call and that never happened, but I understood. I said, these things take time. You need your own time. That's fine. And of course, nobody's putting a gun to your head and say you have to call me. I just looked forward to that, and when it doesn't happen, you just go, oh, that's a shame. You know what I mean? It's a bit like that. But hey, the one thing that I want for you, Denny, is for you to be happy, back to your happy self, a bit more stability in regards to your hours of work and your family life. You've had a few bad experiences, haven't you, with your mum and dad being ill and so forth. So my wish is always that my friend gets a better hold on quality of life. So you continue. Thanks for sending over the films and TV the last few weeks. Just finding the time to watch anything. My mother, yeah, that's right. I've been sending a few things via, like a drive, and you just share your drive with someone. And I thought they'd like a few films. I've been doing that with Ian Hill. I've done a little bit with Denny, Mamemeister, a few people, just in a hope that they've got something nice to watch. Nothing fantastic. My mother, bless her, has loads of jobs for me lined up to do for her when I do get a day off. Hard to describe to her how wore out I feel after night shifts and covering that bloody works roster. How can you say no to your mother? They always come first. Well, of course, and that's exactly how it is with me and my mother. So there you go. Looking forward to the release of Avowed by Obsidian, the Skyrim supposed successor. That was the name of that game that I was trying to explain. I couldn't remember what the name was. Avowed doesn't really come into my vocabulary. Do you see what I mean? And I was going, what's it called? It's done by the people who do Skyrim, but it's not. It's sort of like a successor in a sort of way, etc., etc. Do you see what I mean? So, of course, I got, not flack, but I got a load of comments back saying, what is this game you're talking about? And that's not done by the people that did Skyrim. It's this and that and the other. So, yeah. I'm glad you got it. It's Avowed. It comes out February 18th, something like that. It was one of the games that I earmarked along with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Looks really good, but does it offer anything new to the genre? Now, this is the thing you have to ask yourself is, what can you add? Now, we've reached a plateau, and we always do. And then somebody comes up, bright spark comes along and renews everything, and suddenly the whole playing field changes and a glut of copycats come out. I hope that there's just enough entertainment value to make it worthwhile, with some shreds of originality in it. As I said, I don't want things happening like that game Starfield. Starfield promised the Earth, and when it came out, woefully disappointed people were, even though it was a goodish game. And I say goodish. Don't let me say around and say it was brilliant or goodish game. And so all I can hope with Avowed is entertainment with a shred of originality, really. So you continue. That's the big question. It's a AAA release. And for me, the indie titles are head and shoulders above anything currently released as the next big thing. Although saying that, I've got my faith back in it with this Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm really having a great time with that. And it really is a role-playing game where you can be what you want. You want to go around being a mass murderer? You do so. You want to go around doing good? Do so. You want to go around, it goes on and on and on. And you are penalised. If you're caught, you could be a thief. You get caught, you're branded. They put something on your arm. They spur you like a horse. All that sort of stuff. So, yeah. I would say that my faith has been restored slightly, even if it's got quite a high request on your hardware for you to run it. At the moment, I'm using a 12-year-old machine and it's going okay. But I can feel my machine getting warm and the fans speeding up to keep it cool. So, yeah. And you mentioned this game again, which pisses me off. Heroes of Hammerswatch 2 is one of those indie titles which is priced sensibly and has tons of replayability. Yeah, and I can't afford it at the moment. But there you go. I will get round to indie titles, but I've bought no end of indie titles without really buying AAA titles recently. So, the next game I'm buying is Avowed, and that's with the help of Steve, believe it or not. And then I'll get round to Heroes of Hammerwatch, but it'll be after the time that it came out and where people were having fun and enjoyment. I'll be playing catch up forever on it. But there you go. I like to be there at the beginning, you know what I mean? Like I was with that Vampire Survivors and all of those other games that we played, Denny, where I sent a little game to you and you went, wow, what a game. You see what I mean? You were forever sort of like playing catch up, weren't you? Other people have been playing it for several weeks, but it didn't stop you having your enjoyment with it, which is what makes me smile. Which brings me onto film Furiosa, the Mad Max saga. Again, why? It adds absolutely nothing to the series and hopes to generate interest of Mad Max. Seems quite obvious because a woman had to take the lead role. Soon as the DEI nonsense goes, the better. Yeah, and with Furiosa, I do think it's one of the weaker ones of the Mad Max series. The one before it, Furiosa, was a better film, but there was entertainment value in Furiosa. I've watched it several times now. It's definitely the cinematography is well done. Special effects a bit ropey in places. It's still got that desolation vibe about it, the wastelands. Everybody's hunting around for food. A bit like Waterworld, where everybody's looking for land. So petrol is the thing, ammunition is the thing. Trade that for plants. Plants don't grow in the sand, etc., etc. So it's got that vibe, but it's all based around a young lady called Furiosa. And I can understand where you're coming from with that. And I agree to a certain extent on that. Question for this week. So names you give your characters in computer games. Let's take either Guild Wars 1 or 2. Is there any reasoning to the names you give your characters. Nobody's asked me that before. For example, my ranger is called Human Nature. I choose the Sylvari as they are beings born of the pale tree, surrounded by nature. A botanical human being basically a human plant. Perfect choice for a ranger. My elementalist is called Cosmic Dust. Cosmic Dust is a phrase used from Lost in Space and makes up the elements your wizards use for their spell. So what are some of yours? And it's not going to come as any surprise, right? My answer to this. If anybody's watched some of my series just recently, even with Astrometica, my save game is Talos, which is a planet in Star Trek. I will use TV, film, comic book references. And what biggest reference have you got other than the hundreds of characters Stan Lee came out with and the names? Yeah. So yeah, I did have a Char in Guild Wars 2. A Char is one of these big, burlish, like lion, grizzly bear type characters, and he was called Bruce Banner. Because Bruce Banner's the Hulk. You see what I mean? Right? I had an elementalist, and his name was Donald Blake. Because that's 4, isn't it? Elementalist, you see? Lightning, God of Thunder. And then I had a ranger, and his name was Clint Barton. And if anybody has read any Marvel comics, you'll know that's Hawkeye. So, bloke with an arrow and a bow, you know what I mean? And I had a wizard who was called Wanda Maximov, because it was a lady, and that's the Scarlet Witch. I've had characters P. Parker, Peter Parker, M. Morales. I've had, it goes on and on and on. I look at the, I've even had a character Arthur Dent from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I've even renamed a weapon the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. Because there was a game where you could actually name your weapons, give them names. So yeah, it's a fun thing. I do that all the time. But they're nowhere near as special as yours, matey. I think yours are much more imaginative. Look at that. Born in the pale tree, surrounded by nature. I mean, what did I do? Bruce Banner. I mean, crying out loud. It's not really much imagination, was it? So, yeah. All the best, my friend, and pass on your best on to your mother. No problems, matey. We'll do that. And thank you very much for your time. I hope we do get to talk. I know it's very difficult. At the time where you're probably going to phone, I'm probably not going to be around because I'm be with my mother or something. Or it's very difficult. But we'll try and do it, won't we, matey? And that's the best we can actually do. So salute, and we move on to the next one, which is Carlton. So, hi Dal. This is how he starts. It was another busy week last week. I hope things are going well for you and that your mum is okay. My mum, by the way, is not too bad. Just her memory. Like I say, I had a conversation with her for half an hour. Just asking her to do something in the post office for me. It was basically, I said, I'll write it down on a bit of paper. In fact, if you get stuck, just hand the piece of paper over to the person in the post office. This is while I was at work, you see. Of course, when I came out at lunchtime to ask her if she'd done it, that half-hour conversation, she forgot all about it. She just got her papers and left the post office. That was the end. She forgot all about it. And yeah, I had a half-hour conversation with her on it. Yeah, it's concerning. But she's happy. Comfortable. I'm just going to jump straight to some questions since I have a lot going on at the moment. No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Carlton. He's put, I saw a lot of stories about concerning Neil Gaiman in the news this week following certain allegations. I'm not sure if, like any of his work, such as Sandman, Dead Boy, Detective, etc., I wonder if allegations were made about a writer of comic books you collect, and those were subsequently proven to be true. Would you be able to continue reading the books by separating the person from the art, or would you not read the comics again? That's a very interesting story, and I have to say that it's on a case-by-case basis on this, because when I was collecting the comic books, say, then you wouldn't have known of these problems. And then, say you hear 10 years later on, this particular person was like this, and in the law, it was proved to be true. Do you not read those books again? Do you sell them on? Are you that infuriated that, I tend to find that when something like this happens and I'm very, very emotional about the actual issue at hand, I have gone to the point of not buying anything or seeing anything by that person again, right? I don't know whether I've gone to the point of selling what I had in the past, because at that particular point I was oblivious to this person's personality. Plus, when you're trying to sell it, other people are also trying to sell theirs because they're also equally disgusted. So you sell it for a pittance. There are lots of things, I dare say, that have happened in the past. If I was to delve deep enough, we'd know more about, I don't know, Charles Dickens or whatever, that make us go, ooh, nah. Selling all my Dickens novels, first editions. Bit difficult, do you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of like stories. But I will say this: it depends on the the actual proof and what happens after the allegation turns into reality. What I do, and I'll leave it at that, because, like I say, these are allegations at the moment. I will say this as well: Neil Gaiman's only ever written 2 Marvel comic books. He wrote something called, what was it called? 1602, which was where the Marvel characters were reimagined if they were born in 1602 in England. And another one which was a retake on Jack Kirby's Eternals, which was a pet project of his because he was a big Kirby fan of that particular storyline, the Eternals. And it was drawn with the son of my favourites artist, which is John Romita Sr. So it was John Romita Jr. that drew it. So I do have both of those comic stories, and to be quite honest, it's a drop in the ocean when you consider how many comic books I've got. So I will say this: there's not an awful lot of stuff of his. Sorry, got something in my eye. There's not an awful lot of stuff of his for me to get rid of if I wanted to. I'm not a big DC collector. I've read Sandman. I haven't read Dead Boy, but I've read Sandman, and I really enjoyed Sandman, but I never collected it. So there we go. So that answers that, I think. Number 2 is another piece of news I read was that there were a new translation of the Sega Saturn game Princess Crown from the original Japanese into English. Are there any fan translations of games that you've enjoyed? And are there any games that you would like an English translation of? An interesting question, because I never really came across this problem of translation until my friend bought a PC Engine, and he bought it in the UK but from an importer, and all the games came from Japan, or China and all of that sort of stuff. And when he got them over here, they were all in native language. But he was buying games like R-Type and stuff like that. Didn't need to know the translation for it. So the next time I thought about translation was when I had a SNES. And remember, I had a SNES with one of those magic drives on top where you could actually load in games by disc. So I had quite a big back catalogue of stuff. And there was a lot of these, what they call JRPGs in there. And I can't remember what the titles were, but there was one in there which had been translated officially from Japan into American, well, English. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was a big role-playing game, and you flew over the land in a boat that was in the sky. I think it was called Skies of something, Arcadia or something like that. I can't remember. And I really enjoyed that. And I thought, wow, they've translated this well. But I never then physically looked for Japanese games translated into English, if you see what I mean. And I still don't do that now. If I play a role-playing game, it's because it looks interesting. I've heard, it sounds great, and I've heard that the story is engaging. Sometimes they don't even say, oh, by the way, this was translated. So, yeah. I've never really thought about it, matey, but I tell you what, you've made me start thinking about it. Maybe I ought to do a series on that, about games that have been translated and whether they translated well. That's an interesting idea for a series, isn't it? So take care, mate, and all the best to you and your mum, and I'll pass that on, Carl. Thank you so much. Absolutely marvellous. And the next one is Ian Hill, The Ramblings, who I talked about earlier on. Marvellous. He's a great friend of mine, a big supporter of mine. I'm a big supporter of his. The amount of stuff he comes out with, well, you'll hear later on. So he's put, hi Del Boy, great blog as always. It's a big part of my Sunday sitting down watching it. I think getting an insight on how your life is will always be interesting. Let's face it, a lot of us humans are nosy and love learning about the other people's lives. This is naturally more when you are a friend. I hope you and your mum are okay. It's Friday today and very parky. I went to the corner shop and it felt like Brass Monkeys weather had returned. So if you are experiencing the same weather, hope you are both keeping warm. And yeah, we're doing our best, and it's been pretty cool. But I can just imagine in Leeds, it's like Antarctic up there. You know what I mean? It's why you got that beard, mate. You know what I mean? It had to shift south, didn't it? I had to get that north-south divide in. Just keep your chin warm. You know what I mean? Loved as always our Wednesday live. Very enjoyable this time. Very enjoyable. The time just flew by. I've just watched and reviewed for my channel the 50s sci-fi film It Came From Beneath the Sea. Oh, I've got that. It had some Ray Harryhausen special effects. That's the reason why I've got it. I do enjoy those creature features, which often blame atomic bomb testing for their creation. That's exactly what Stan Lee did. It was all... He didn't do it down to bombs. He did it down to radiation. It was gamma radiation, alpha radiation, beta radiation, solar radiation, cosmic rays. I mean, it was a brilliant method, I suppose, to talk about the wonder of the world where we don't know enough about what this stuff does to us. There was a drama documentary feel to the film. So my question this week is, what are your favourite sci-fi films of the 50s and 60s? Oh, man. Now, you've done your science fiction top 5 films of each year from 1961 to 2024, I think you did, in the end. And you should know by now that how can you have 2 decades and narrow it down to just a few, These ones are going to come as no surprise to anybody. And I should think every single one of these films I'm going to mention, one of you guys have either seen, heard about, or watched part of. Do you know what I mean? I doubt that there's one in there where never heard of it, and I've never even seen a part or a clip of it. You know what I mean? So, top of the list, Planet of the Apes, 1968. What can you say? I mean, everybody, I think, knows Planet of the Apes. Forbidden Planet, 50s film, just about fits in your criteria. If I remember rightly, it's 1952, 1. Got a Shakespearean angle to that particular film. Who can forget The Day the Earth Stood Still? Still one of my favourite films of all time. Clay Tower and all of that. The remake was absolutely atrocious. Bob Wise directed that one. Fantastic. War of the Worlds. I mean, ever since I've listened to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, I've read the book, I've seen the TV series, I've watched the original 50s, 60s film, and I've watched the remake that was done with Tom Cruise, and War of the Worlds still continues to excite. It's just good story. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the paranoia propaganda film. What can I say? Aliens come down and they clone us. What a horrible way to go, that once you fall asleep, they clone you and your body crumples to dust because it's taken all the essence of what you are into this vegetation type plant. Scary, isn't it? You know, like Day of the Triffids and all of those, but I'm going ahead of myself a little bit here. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, totally brilliant film. The Fly, as I've said many times, where my sister would turn around and she hated hearing that end of that film, where there was a half fly, half man caught in a spider's web at the end. There it was with its head and arm in a spider's web, the rest being spider-bodied, and it was going, help me, in that high-pitched noise. And then some bloke comes along with a boulder and squishes it. That's the end of that. Brilliant. And then The Time Machine. I've always been interested in time travel. Time Machine, brilliant. You know, how much of an emphasis can you say that Doctor Who doesn't take from The Time Machine? Marvellous. And there are loads more. And that's just the tip of an iceberg of, I think most people will have heard of what you know, a lot of those films. I don't think there's one there that's obscure. Do you know what I mean? So, and I'm pretty sure every single one of those was in your list, Ian. So what can I say? Great minds think alike. All the best to you, and have a reet grand time, you say. Always got to get that in there, reet grand time, because you come from that northern Leeds sort of like place. So, till this Wednesday, matey, and thanks very much for your comment. It really fills me with joy to read out something from yourself, matey. Thank you. Then we get to my mate Down the Rabbit Hole, and he's put, good to see you enjoyed my Trek video, Del. Loved doing it. And you were the first commentator of many that were saying it was likely a figure of speech. I did have some military folk advise me as well, with interesting history of naval terms. Yeah, it's whenever you do something on Star Trek, I feel like you're like a lost brother to me, you know. You're talking at a level where I've got some input, because I love all the variety of your videos, but sometimes I go, I wish I could talk about Dungeons and Dragons, but it's a missed opportunity with me in the fact that my friends didn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons, and all I could do was watch the cartoon, I even went to the point of buying the Marvel Dungeons and Dragons game, which was also done by TSR, and just read the book and hoped one day I'd be a grand dungeon master leading my friends on a Marvel trek, through a story, roll the dice to see if Peter Parker's web hits this villain or whatever it is. It sounds absolutely marvelous, and missed opportunities from me, ones that probably isn't going to get filled now with my age. You never know, though. So you continue. That VR skiing game is a lot of fun. I hope the developers patch the controls, though. Yeah, you were mentioning about the controls. I haven't got to the point yet of looking to see whether I can, if it's on the Meta Quest or available on Steam to be streamed through to my own headset. But it looked interesting. It looked fun. You had another ski game that you were playing as well, about a month or so previously, that I liked. So you continue. Have you had any so-called experts say anything on your videos? For example, anything Marvel related that you just know that they were wrong about, but you didn't want to scare them away? How do you handle people trying to educate you on a topic when in reality you know full well they're wrong? Keep up the good work as always. I've tried to be like Kirk and be diplomatic, to be quite honest. Notice I got a Star Trek reference in there. No. There is always that in the back of my mind that when I'm talking about something in the past, yeah, my memory might have got me confused. And therefore, I might be in the wrong. Now, take me back 20 years earlier and I'd be the very cocky person that says, you're wrong. And I can prove you're wrong. And I'd be very much the domineering person that says, you prove me wrong. But memory's a funny thing. And I sometimes feel now that I'm not confident enough, even in the hobbies that I've been involved in for the last 40 plus years, that I could talk easily about in front of hundreds of people, I would say, that I could talk in any sort of domineering way. I'd be talking in a educational way, but I wouldn't be going, if somebody counter claims against it, like turning around and saying, you mentioned earlier on this, and I believe that was rewritten as canon 10 years later. What's your feelings on it now? I couldn't turn around and say, bollocks, you're in the wrong. That's a totally different thing and has nothing to do with it. 20 years earlier, I might have had a stab. So I find this is where I like to be on Ian Hill, the Ramblings channel. And I like going on and speaking to my friend Alan, Mamemeister's channel, because we talk about such subjects where I might have an opinion. Now, the nice thing about it all is, even when I'm going on my friend Alan or Mamemeister's channel, I know nothing about the subject matter. Nothing. He doesn't tell me anything. He just says, get on here, 10 minutes, get your arse in gear. And then when I'm there, he'll turn around and say, yeah, I got a few subjects. We'll talk about this during the time. And he won't tell me what they are. So they're all a surprise when I get actually into going live. So, yeah, it's one of those type of things. I've always loved to partake knowledge to people. I've never tried to be condescending in trying to do it either, or patronising. Patronising is a word that you avoid when you're on customer support. It's like a plague word. It's like you do not patronise a customer. It's one of the top 3 things that's listed on any crib sheet that you'll ever be on a customer service thing. So you can't sort of like go, can you turn it off and on again? and all of this sort of stuff, you in a sort of way, you've got to use empathy, and you have to use these things, these suggestions, in different orders, so it comes across like they can see you've tried everything. Do you see what I mean? Because people know now that when you phone customer services, the first thing they're going to ask you to do is, have you rebooted? Have you turned it off and on? You know, and all of that. So, of course, you've got to come across and go, yes, I've done the normal, done the standard, and, you know, no point going over that ground again. And I'd love to big up my channel and say that I've had people of worth. You know, what I mean by worth is people that have created something or written something or whatever that's published, come up and say, I heard you talk about this, thanks very much, or whatever, and that you got a few points wrong. That's only ever happened once, and I think it was with, I forgot what the title of the game is called, but it's the follow-up to Attic Attack. It was like Meltafor's Manor or something. The guy that wrote it just corrected me and said the game that I was playing was the PC version, correct, but it wasn't actually, the PC one wasn't the developer platform, it was the Spectrum Next, or it was the other way round. I'd got it the wrong way round. But he then corrected me on some of the things that I was trying to do in the game, which you couldn't do. And he just basically thanked me for showcasing his game. And he hoped that I enjoyed it. For which I had to answer back and say, wow, I'm so impressed that somebody actually who wrote the game actually watched my little channel. And I hope I showed in my channel how much of an enjoyment I got out of that game. And I still have enjoyment out of that game now. And I had another person that did the same thing. It was on a game called Zenith, which is a remake of The Sentinel. 12 years after he made it, he came back to me and he said, thanks very much for showcasing my little game. And I'm going, 12 years, man, it's been since you wrote this game, and you're still looking out for people that are discovering it. That's one heck of a job to do. Do you see what I mean? So that was interesting. But apart from that, I've never had like someone from Marvel cross-check what I've said or anything like that. And the biggest thing that I have is, and this is not belittling anything, is my little discussions I have with Colin Jones, aka Ponder, which are all tolerated conversations, you know, where he'll have an opinion and I'll have an opinion. We're not really trying to catch each other out by saying, I know more about it than you do. We've never gone down that route. I don't think we ever would, because we both value, I think, our backgrounds. I mean, I've worked in IT and I've been an IT manager, and I've worked in that environment since 1994. I'd like to say, yeah. So, and I've done administrative exams, Microsoft exams. I'm ITIL accredited. I've built many machines. I bought an A1000 day one. So I was learning all about GUI interfaces and stuff before they were really a thing, if you see what I mean. I'm just finding now later on in life it's a little bit harder for me to really learn something new as complex as Linux. But I've told him never say never, and I still have my Linux firewall down here. It's a Pentium 2, I think, Pentium 1 450, I think it is. Can't quite remember. And all it is an empty PC that is basically my firewall. And my router goes through it. So not only do they have to get through that firewall, they have to get through the router's firewall, and then they have to get through the firewall that I've got on the operating system. 3 firewalls. I should think that if they tried to do a DD attack, a data attack on my machine, it would time out. It would count to 255 and time out. So, yeah, just a DDAT attack, that's it. So, that's all I got to say on that. my friend, and you put keep up the good work as always, and I'll try. And thank you very much for commenting on my new series, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance. I never knew that you'd watch anything like that of mine. I always thought it would probably just listen to the blog, pay, some attention to that. But wow, that blew me away, really, that I saw that you'd commented on that. Thank you so much for doing so. That cheered me up. No, and I'll tell you what, that cheered me up. The best thing about this week has been reading your comments on those 2 videos that I've done. Couldn't believe it, seeing my friend comment on that game. And with that, I'll say salute to you. And I'm just going to check on my mum, because we've reached that hour-long stage, where I do a little bit of a pause and just make my mum a cuppa and make sure she's okay. So I'll be back in a moment. Hello, and I've had my little toilet break and got my mum a cup of tea. And I just looked at my alert, and I can see straight away that the next person I'm just about to talk about has done another video. Bloody hell, Steve. Steve's Gaming, who's so good, you little bastard. Fucking hate you, you little shit, you bastard. No. Great friend of mine. He's brought out another bloody game, and I just watched, 3 minutes of it, because I've just basically nosy little git me. I have to be ahead of the game. And he was talking about this sort of like dungeon crawling game. Now, I don't know if he'll ever mention it, but he wasn't very happy with a Fergal game that was on the Commodore 64. And I must have played 60, 70 of these types of games that he's been playing. And I always go back to Temple of Apshai trilogy by Epix. And I love those games. Oh, I played them to death. And he hasn't mentioned those once, so I don't know whether he's going to do a little series. I think he ought to, because there's a lot of these types of games, and I remember loving Temple of Apshai trilogy. I had it on the Commodore 64. I then bought it on the Amiga. Before I moved away from the Commodore 64, I played Masters of Magic, which is very loosely those types of games. Obviously, Ultima is there, but they're much more complex. These games he's playing are what I wouldn't say the cheaper, I'd say the cut down versions of a complex game like Ultima. And therefore much more entry level and easier to get into, and you can have a quick 5-10 minutes on them and have some great enjoyment. I'm there going, Temple of Apshai, where are you, man? You got to be talking about Temple of Apshai, can't you? Anyway, rant over. I love him to bits. And another little thing that he's got a problem with is getting his Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 working, which I had 5 minutes trying to help him get it working last night, but at least he's got the game now registered in his library, which I sent a couple of links to say do this, do that, and I think he's got past that point. So we're making progress. But of course, he's got a different machine to mine. Now, you'd think he'd have an easier job because he's got a newer i5, high-end version of the i5, I have to say as well, processor, a newer motherboard, probably the same amount of RAM as me. I've got 32 gig. I think he's got the same. He's got an SSD drive. He's got the same graphic card. He's got a 3060 Ti. So you'd think he wouldn't be having all these problems, but he is. And of course I have to go down the route of, it's got to be driver related. It's got to be something. And hopefully he'll have more time for me. Maybe even have a voice conversation that we can go over. Because at the moment I can only do things by text, ask questions, and take photographs of my own settings, which helps in a way. And I remember I've been a customer support person for years, so I can go down the route of asking questions. But really, it's a very slow way of doing things. But anyway, I digress. I hope we do get that sorted for him, because I think he's going to have an immense, great time with that game. But he starts off his comment to me and he says, "Hi, Dell. Another fine blog. I do enjoy watching them a lot. So what do I have to say this week? Well, not a lot really. It's been a weird week and the new neighbours are being annoying sods, so I've not been in a good mood recently. Although we have been watching quite a bit of Doctor Who recently, as I got my wife a Tom Baker Blu-ray for Christmas, and she's just got around to watching it. I think you started watching that around Christmas, because I remember you saying you watched Robot. But anyway, really enjoying it, though. Visited my mum tonight. She's okay, but she just cannot get warm at all, even though her living room feels hot to me. Couple that with her memory problems, and I'm very concerned about her right now, yeah. And you know, matey, we sort of are in parallel a little bit with that. So, okay, now on to my questions. So, question 1. I know you just kicked off part 1 of your Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 series now. Now, are you going to play a goody-goody who goes around helping everyone, or are you going to play a thief or murderer, or don't you know yet? Question mark. Well, I'm only 2 parts in. I haven't even got past the tutorial yet, and I haven't decided on my character yet. At the moment, I'm playing a diplomat, really, trying to talk my way out of things, but I've got a funny feeling that I need to be more aggressive. But the trouble with being aggressive is that you need to then be able to sword play or that sort of thing an awful lot. And I'm not very good at that. So I'm tending to find I'm tittering on the diplomat until I find a skill master or a person that will teach me sword play. I know that's going to be in there because there's going to be too many people that have been playing this game that don't know anything about the fighting mechanics. And I've only had 1 bout of that type of person who was in my team, who was training me with a wooden sword. So there's got to be somewhere later on where I'll learn things, skills that'll up my abilities. From that point of view, I'm playing the let's see if I can talk my way out of things. Even last night, I died. And I went through this death sequence twice. The first time I tried to talk and it went into a fight. The second time, I turned around and said who I was, and they instantly killed me. So it looks very much like the third time that I'm going to go into this. I'm not even going to have a chat. I'm going to pull out a sword and kill them before they even strike, because I know who they are now. That's the nice fun thing about earlier on games in tutorials, is where later on in the game that one thing will cost you. At this tutorial stage, you could just go back and try it again. It does say try again, and I'm pretty sure that try again is going to go later on in the game. So you're going to have to watch and see, aren't you? Hey, got to watch my videos for once. I say for once, I know he watches them all the time. Question 2. What children's TV series did you love as a kid but can't bear to watch it now? Mine has to be Mary, Mungo and Midge. It's about a girl and a dog and a mouse. I never missed an episode as a kid, but Christ, it's horrendous now. Laugh out loud. All the best, mate. Love to your mum. Oh. I don't watch an awful lot of kiddies stuff anymore. It's Denny's domain. But I have fond memories of them. But I think to myself all the time when I'm thinking back to them, I probably hate them now. And there's only certain ones where I'll turn around and say, that wouldn't be the case. And I can certainly say with strength and total conviction that things like Bagpuss I'll watch and knew I loved it and I wouldn't hate it now. Finger Bobs, Play Away. Because I'd be laughing at how I would have found the songs that they sing fun at the time and be cringing at now, but I wouldn't go, oh, I hate this. It's atrocious now. But let me think of some titles. Well, we actually talked about this in one of the chats. Anything to do with the Famous Five and Secret Seven. I would find that middle class, know-it-all, kids that you know are going to go to university, bollocks, awful. And I wouldn't be able to get past that this was aimed at kids at the time. No. Secret 7, Famous 5, definitely. You mentioned Mary Mungo and Midge, and that'd be one that I would probably have added. But I think there was another one, Crystal Tips and Alistair. I think I'd hate that now. I don't think I'd like that. And I know that I watched that back as a child. There was one that had this saying in it called, they used to say, all aboard the Skylark. Oh, that must be Noah and somebody, and the Skylark. Can't remember the title of it. I mentioned another one during the week because we were talking about Lena Zavaroni and I've forgotten her name again now, who was in Doctor Who. But anyway, she was in Just William. She used to say, I'd scream and scream and scream until I'm sick. I think I'd cringe. I think at that. What was her name? She was Mel in the Doctor Who. She was singer and dancer and does some drama stuff. Still can't think of her bloody name. I had to look it up on Wednesday. See, my brain's just about gone. Now, I think it was called Paper something. It had these puppet spiders that looked like Muppets, but the hand, you could see the hand with the legs, and they did it on a black sort of like curtain with a web design on the black curtain, and they were talking about how to do things with paper, you know, like folding it to make airplanes and all that. Paper play, paper something or other, can't remember that. And then of course there's going to be Andy Pandy, Teddy, you know, Teddy Edward, Noddy, all of that. Loved them as a kid. Tales of the Riverbank might be. No, I think Tales of the Riverbank I'll keep in. I think I'd still get enjoyment watching real life mice near a river and then and then a narrator saying what they were talking about, and all you saw was their eyes, and they weren't moving their mouths at all. They were, you know, they were just sort of like real animals with a narrator. Tales from the Riverbank, I think it was called. I think I'll leave that one in. I think I've got enough in there, matey, to say those would make me squirm. Especially the Secret 7 and Famous 5 and Timmy the dog and all that shit. Bollocks. Makes me cringe watching the bloody adverts with them in advertising train journeys, I think. Yeah, I think they do. Salute, my friend. Do watch his channel. He's fucking bastard. I hate him. He's little shit. He's a great bloke, and you need to go and watch his stuff. Thank you very much, matey. And we salute to you, and we move on to another great friend, wee Bob Art. What's he put? He's put, I agree with the comment he's put about the PlayStation VR, one being better than the Quest, the PlayStation VR 1 being better than the Quest 3 in some respects. Yeah, I weren't going to go full hog and say, you're mental. Because there will be still some aspects of the PlayStation VR 1 that are better even than the Quest 3, especially when it comes to comfort. I mean, that's the best comfort headset I've ever had, even though it weighs a ton on your head. But it was all because of the cushions and so forth. But it was heavy. I mean, and the cables were such a pain in the arse. So anyway, I don't have a PlayStation VR 2, so I can't comment on that. The issue with the Quest 3, I find, is the jaggies. I assume due to the graphic card in the Quest 3, yeah, it does have a good graphic card in the Quest 3, but it's not the best. But actually, jaggies are probably due to the pancake lenses more than anything. Mamemeister's just bought an optimizer. which might improve that a little bit. I tend to find that it might even go away even more if you buy prescription lenses that fit magnetically on the pancake lenses, because it gets rid of those rings that make it up. So the jaggies are there, but the higher resolution does hide it a little bit. So again, I agree a little bit with that. I also think a lot of the games are cartoony, but my argument to that is so are the PlayStation VR 2 games. Not only do they have AAA games, they've got a lot of the Flappy Bird stuff and all that the MetaQuest 3 does. But what my argument to it is don't turn around and say it doesn't have high-end AAA and gritty games, because if you go to the Steam library and hook it up, there's far more of those types of games. So they're not all cartoony. As standalone games that you play without any tethering to a cable, yeah, more of them, because they take up less space. But they're not all cartoony. You do touch on this and a few of the weaknesses of the PlayStation VR, yeah, which is the cabling, the heavy nature of it, how old it is, the resolution of it. I mean, it's 4 times lower than a Quest 3. How can you turn around and say the person said that the graphics were better on the VR 2, yeah. On the first PSVR against a Quest 3, no. The leaps of difference come when you link to your Steam library. There you are. You've mentioned it yourself. If your PC is beefy enough to run VR games, thankfully mine is. Half-Life Alyx, there we are. Everybody goes to that one. Is amazing in this mode. Anyway, and I would turn around and say, play Batman, play Asgard's Wrath 2. Oh my God, what a game that is. Asgard's Wrath 2, you'd be turning around and cacking your pants in regards to how good the quality of the graphics are in that game. To some extent, Assassin's Creed, that looks good. And there's one called Red Moon something or other, or Red something or other. The graphics in that are incredible. I played that for hours, and I like the mixed reality. Anyway, and I did mention, by the way, that you can actually sideload a thing called Unreal VR, sideload it onto your MetaQuest 3, connect it to your Steam account, and every Unreal free engine game that's in your Steam library is turned to VR. To good to bad extent. There are some that are awful, run like shit. Others, great. Some, exceptional. The great ones are things like Aliens Isolation, that sort of stuff. Older games are great. Even some of those, though, have got some poor. There are some really poor ones where you, in the game on the PC, you'd have a gun in front of you and it would be wobbling like this. Because you've turned everything VR, the gun is actually mapped differently in VR. So it looks like a 2D sprite, and it irritates me. But you have to play around with the console and you can get it to work. Big experimental thing to play around with exceptional support to make it run. Plus a big spreadsheet that tells you which ones are good and which ones are bad. Great thing that. Half-Life Alyx is amazing in this mode. Anyway, great blog as always, Del. Hope life is treating you well. Question for next time. The Vanishing. Oh, wow. That's a film. Yeah, 1993 Sandra Bullock is a movie that really creeped me out back in the day. Can you name 3 movies? Oh, here we go. You get 3 for me. 3 movies that made you uneasy and stayed with you for a period of time. Oh. I can't even think what the vanishing that creeped you out. I got to think about that. But oh wow, there's one exceptional one that comes to mind. Probably because I never expected the actor to play that type of role. 1 Hour Photo, Robin Williams. What a creepy character. Worked in a sort of like Walmart, developing photographs. Got so enamored by this family that were bringing in photos that he even started stalking them and they're living their life and looking at their photographs and all of this sort of stuff. That creeped me out. Yeah. There's one called, and it's not a great film, but it stuck with me, called The Lovely Bones. I think it's a Peter Jackson film. Yeah, it is. It's a Peter Jackson film. And it creeped me out because unlike The Sixth Sense, and I won't spoil that one for you, there's an ending on there and you go, and then you know it for the rest of your life. This particular one, you found this out about a third of the way into the film, the same thing, but then she tried to help her family as an apparition. Yeah, that really spooked me out, to think that somebody might be watching me. Yeah, that one did. I have to think of a third. Oh wow, I did a watch along last year of Cannibal Holocaust, and that always has disturbed me from the moment I saw it. And I saw it in the 80s. The destruction and death of this turtle. I don't want to bring it up too much, but it's supposed to be about lost footage of a tribe, where you see their lives and how they, they killed people and ate them, for God's sake. But this filmmaker went to the extent to show just how appalling this type of thing is to us as educated people, that they went to the extent of pulling this big turtle out of the water and gutting it while it was alive. You could see it was it was in distress all the way through it. Them cutting it out of its shell, and you could see its head still moving while they were chopping its legs and cracking open the shell. Yeah, it was awful. Cannibal Holocaust. Yeah, that's definitely my third choice. There's bound sure to be many others, matey, but I'm pretty sure you've seen 1 Hour Photo and you'll know exactly what I mean. The Lovely Bones probably less so, but yeah. Salute, my friend. Thank you very much. So let me think. We're moving on now. Sorry, salute to you. And we'll move on to my friend Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Let's see. He's put, Barclays are facing a huge compensation payout, in my opinion. I'd like to know what caused the outage, and I'll bet it's something that they use across the board rather than the operating system itself, in a similar way to the mass outages last year. Yeah, it will be. It'll be some subsystem of the networking. They use the same sort of networking that backs and chaps payments do, but apparently this was the front end customer side of things. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did an investigation that the whole thing started with a back end substructure failure on the backs and chaps side. But we'll see. Bound sure to be an investigation into that, because they're public. Given my early 1990s experience with the air traffic around the London area, I don't see any benefit in a third runway at Heathrow, just massive disruption. And I have to sort of agree with that. I was turning around and saying, just think of all those people, their green belts drastically going to change with that. Do we need another third runway? It's survived with what it's got. and it's still one of the largest airports in Europe. It's still a major hub. You've got other hubs that you can go to now in the north. So, do you really need another one? No, I think I agree with that. You've put here, road trip question mark. Are you going to Arcade Club in March? My intention, yes. Whether I can physically do it, I'm not sure. The physio went well. I've still got sleep deprivation. For me to travel up for the day of it and then travel back the same day is out the question because of sleep deprivation. I don't want to sleep at the wheel, which means I'd have to stay there. Then there's the problem of looking after my mum, which if I can get my sister to do it, great. But she's really hard to actually tie down and say, look, you got to look after mum for a whole night. Because she'll always come up with some argument that she can't. Which is not a bad thing. It's just that people do have their own lives. But she relies on me now being the person who lives at home looking after my mum. So I'm sort of like 90% there of going, it's on the cards I am. But if I don't, I'll be joining one a little bit later on. I was going to do a test of me going to one of these road trips with going to see the cave that Mamemeister's gone to see. And during my time of relaxing after my heart attack, I tried to get in touch with Holly, but apparently the emails were bouncing. I never saw the bounce back, but she said she never received them. And I tried to keep sending emails, and even to the point that Mamemeister said she's looking out for them. I sent one more, still didn't get any reply. So I started to become resentful. Do I want to go even to the cave now? Now that I've tried to go during that period, because remember, the cave to me is only like 50 miles down the road. It's 60 miles to get to Bury. It's closer to the 150, 160 mile mark. So it would have been a good test because I could have gone there 50 miles, travelled back 100 miles. That proves to me I could get there. But without that test, no idea. I used to be able to travel all the time, but it's sleep deprivation now that's causing the problem. So we're seeing. But I must admit, I don't like feeling resentful. But I do a little bit in regards to the cave, believe it or not. But I still watch them every week. That doesn't change. Sending my regards to your mum seems like a random place to say this, but it was at this point in your blog you paused to check up on her. That's fine. It's not an issue. Are you actually getting medical help for your sleep deprivation? I know you're taking steps yourself and they're having some effect, but maybe some outside help may improve things more. Matey, I've complained and complained and complained. When I first mentioned it about my heart and all that sort of problems, I filled in a form to see whether you fit in for going to a sleep clinic, a clinic where you actually stay, they sleep, they monitor your sleep, they find out how many times you wake up, all of that sort of stuff. The scoring system showed that I was able to have it. You handed it in, and then I've heard nothing. Now I've followed it up with my doctor and said, so what's happening with my sleep deprivation? Oh, it's filled in. It says it's here. But there is a big wait on these clinics. And I'm going, okay. I said, but that's the big problem I've got. I'm still having it now, and you can't control it with tablets or anything else. So I need that sorted. So yes, matey, that's a big yes, and one I've chased. So I've done everything I can. Yeah, so you continue with resistance in computers. I was talking about the OS designers taking away user flexibility, but I've had my say on Windows now. It won't be every week. Oh no, that's fine, matey. I've enjoyed it. And I agree with you. Windows operating systems are dumbed down. But then again, I also know and this is no detrimental to people like Mamemeister, is all the complexity is still there and it's behind things. And when people do get to what is behind there, they follow a crib sheet of how to fix it. And once it's fixed, they go, oh, glad I never have to do that again. Where there are people like us that relish it and go, oh, I must remember that, and I'll write that down, and I'll use that next time it ever happens. And you still remember all the commands, and it all depends on how you were introduced to it, at what year or age that you were told about these PowerShells and command lines, you know, poking, peeking, sys commands, all of that sort of stuff back in the early days, on how your excitement was at pulling something apart and looking at hex editors and all sorts of stuff, that makes me think that people that didn't do much of that are going, I just want it to work. And you've got to remember that when I worked on the service desk, I could gauge somebody wanting to know why it broke to the person that just wants it fixing. You know what I mean? There were so many doctors I spoke to that said, can you just fix this, please? And I'd go, yeah, not a problem. And then there are others that right at the end, and you'd fixed it all, and they were complimenting you, said, oh, you're a genius, thank you very much. They would then come up and say, what was it then that broke it? And those people, maybe they just want to take it away and tell their director or building manager why it went wrong. But there are others that go, oh, I see what you're saying, right? Ah, okay, so yeah, you did this, that, right, got you, understood. You can gauge it generally in people. Not everybody is like us, Colin, so I totally get that. I get lost with some of the things that you're talking about. But the thing is, I get just enough of a gist of it, because I've been out of the way system-wise for a long time, that certain abbreviations or words will go over my head until I look them up, and they just naturally will, because I've had to learn so many abbreviations in the probation service and the MOJ, that learning a whole new set for home just blows my mind. Like I say, the WBAM service, WBAM service, the all of that sort of stuff, I get it, but I don't expect everybody out there to understand it. Glad to see you have and like spin right. Oh yeah, the importance, you can see it here, look, the importance I have of having these USB sticks where I can just stick them in and fix the problem. In fact, I was using that to the woes of my E-drive, my 7200 spin 2 terabyte drive, looking at things in the boot sector that might be causing it to write all 100% all the time when there's no activity. I was looking at all sorts of things, even some of the things that you've written in the past about your slow boot times. I looked at all of that and put that methodology into it, and that didn't work either. But you pull out the drive and bang, it works. And yet it's not a cable issue, and it's not the port I'm plugging it into on the SATA, and it's not a driver issue, etc., etc. I've gone down the route. It's weird. I'll look forward to upgrade path discussions. Yes, we will. And if I'm there on the road trip, matey, I'm pretty sure we'll be sitting with a pint in our hands, talking to death, and there's going to be people around us going, what are those two sods talking about? Oh, Jesus Christ. They're in their element. Bloody hell, nerds. I'm sure of it. But there we go. You know, that while I'm beating Alan at every arcade game that's got anything to do with a level 2. Anyway, that's my little dig at Alan. Question. I know you're into VR, but what do you see in its future? Is it stumbling and trying to break out of niche, or will prices drop and become more mainstream? That sort of thing. Do you know what? That question is so similar to the Gadget Show's 1 hour video on YouTube this week on VRs with their question, is VR dead? And I agree pretty much with the whole art discussion that they had in there. VR has got a big problem, and the big problem is it's got a stigmatism to it. People have instantly look at VR, put it on and go, I'm going to be sick with it. The other thing is it's too expensive. Other things are the games are too cartoony and dumbed down to make anything remotely worth playing not worth it, etc., etc. Ray-Ban are trying to make glasses that have got VR ability in them, but they're so expensive. They're £1,000. Even more than that. I think the Ray-Ban ones are actually £1,800 and some pounds, I think the Gadget Show said. And they do less than what the VR headset's doing. But you've got to understand that they need development time and development money to develop this product. And it needs a killer app or a killer game for the home market. So for the home market, it needs a killer game. For it to succeed in anything outside of gaming, it needs a killer app. You know, something like I can perform surgery using this. You know what I mean? Something like that, which can be used. It's a great product for you watching 3D films, but you can do that with 3D TVs of 10 years ago. So, and VR movies are a long way away from. I mean, I don't see Steven Spielberg doing, I don't know, Jaws 10 in VR. Somehow I don't think that's going to happen. But hey, knowing me, with me making that comment, that'll come out next year now. So, and before anybody knows, yes, I know there weren't 9 other Jaws films, but you understand the sentiment. So yeah, it needs something, and it's got a lot of baggage behind it that are stopping people from buying it or taking a punt. Because there'll be so many people that said, I tried it years ago and it didn't work out, so I'm not going to retry it again. And that's wrong, because technology moves forward. And with technology that moves forward, they fix the things that you gave them back as feedback with the problems of the initial releases of these VR headsets. So yeah, that's what it needs, matey. Get rid of the baggage, come up with a killer game, come up with a killer app, price drop. There you are. That's all the things I can think of off the top of my head for a short discussion like a blog. I've got a lot more, obviously. Thank you so much for your question, matey. Salute, my friend. And we move on to Muckman-Movies, who says, Hi, Dow. Looking forward to my post. That's the film I sent to him. You're too kind. I'm definitely up for getting involved in the next round of gameplay recommendations to put me down. You are down, definitely, matey. They'll be starting it off very, very shortly. I'm still waiting on the odd email, but it won't be long now. And you are there on the list. Frank Holder has come back and said, Greetings from Tokyo, Delboy. It's good to see you looking well now. I hope your mama is well today, and I will ask a question if I may. Oh, by the way, salute Muckman-Movies, and by the way, he's got his own channel. Please subscribe to it, or at least like it and show, or watch the odd one on there. Brilliant stuff. Frank Holder continues, do you ever regret starting your video blogs? I'm guessing there is a lot of work involved, and it must get tiring at times. Do you ever get the feeling that, oh God, it's Sunday again, I've got to do another blog? I can answer that now. No. Obviously, there are times where you go, I don't feel well enough. But even through sickness, I've done a blog every week. And when it came to my heart attack, I was so concerned that I contacted my friend and I did a blog called That Was the Blog That Wasn't when I got out of hospital. And I brought that out within 24 hours of me having my third operation on my heart. So, yeah, it's very important to me. I've said why it's important to me. I've said even if I stopped doing it as a live to everybody else, on Sunday I would be recording one for my nephew and nieces. It would go private, and it would be there for them to watch, and it would never stop. And Sunday would be the time for me to do it. So it will never go away. But obviously, if you ever come across someone like Mamemeister, say, he will tell you after doing them for 10 or 12 years, there are times where you go, do you know what? I just can't face it today. And that happens to anybody that, especially who's done it A, for a long time, and B, does it at the same time every week. Because you just think to yourself, what other things I could be doing? Now, I could be going for a lovely walk in the countryside rather than sitting here at, gone 1, gone 2, doing a blog. But I find this very therapeutic, and I feel it's something that I need to do for my own mental health and sanity. So, yeah, never feel like that, matey. That really is the answer to that. Also, talking Elden Ring. Yes, it's Elden, not Eden. But it is a game I play more than even Minecraft. Yeah, you have to excuse me a little bit there, Frank, because I do a 2.5 hour blog and sometimes my tongue will slip. All right. I'm pretty sure if you look in there, you'll see that when I was talking about it in Steve's section, I called it Elden because I wrote it down. And where somebody else, where I was referring to it from memory, I called it Eden. Slip of the tongues happen. But yeah, I will do my best to try and keep it as accurate as possible. But even I get tired after 2 or so hours. So also talking Elden Ring, yes, it's Elden, not Eden, but it is a game I put more in than Minecraft. I think I have over 700 hours into it. Do you consider doing a series of it? ? I could give you help. Shall I tell you something? Please do this, Frank. There is a fantastic series that Steve's Gaming is doing it. That's all you got to look for, Steve's Gaming. He is at episode 14 and started at the beginning playing Elden Ring. And it's a fantastic thing to watch. He does an hour of it every video that he does. And he's on the 14th. And he would get great benefit of hearing any comments that you might have. And I think you'd enjoy somebody my age, in other words, an old duffer, trying to play this modern game. It's so funny. And it's the one reason possibly why you won't see Elden Ring on my channel is that, well, my friend's doing it, first of all, 1. 2, it's still very expensive for quite an old game now. I was tempted to buy it in the sales over Christmas and still didn't buy it. And the reason for that was I just think that at its age, it should be cheaper now. So, yeah, I haven't bitten the bullet even with watching Steve's videos because I just think to myself, I'm having quite just fun watching it, watching my friend play it. So, but you never say no, Frank. And if you feel that that's something that you'd like to see me do, then basically say so. And I will try and get the funds up together to buy it, first of all. B, I'll definitely have a go, really. That's all I can say. So, salute, my friend, because I've got to the end there now. Thank you very much. And then we get to my friend Martroid, who's put, oh, and I'm ready and willing, buddy, so please do include me. That's about having Martroid on as my friend, wanting to give me games to play. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, Martroid, you will always be there, and I knew that you'd be up for it, so you were never off of the list. But the last thing you've put is, hi, Del. Yes, sad about the passing of Marianne Faithfull. Admittedly, I didn't know her music that well, but I believe her classic album is regarded as 1979's Broken English, which does indeed include the Ballad of Lucy Jordan, which is a fantastic tune. I really love that tune. And that's the end of the comments, which means that we've got to the last part of the blog. So I'm just going to take, because another hour has literally gone by, just going to take another little break, make sure my mum's okay. And we're going to finish off the blog. So won't be a moment, it'll be seconds to you. And we're back, and we're going to go quickly through this section because it's only stuff that I've watched. bit of a promotion for some of my friends. Stuff that people that have joined my Discord, part of Discords that I joined as well. And there might be something in here that tips your fancy in regards to what I've watched, because they've turned up in my YouTube alerts, that tell me of stuff I might want to watch. So we've got the two that I always watch, which is This Week in Retro and Tecmo. And as always, This Week in Retro was right at the top, and they had 3 sections. All You Need Is Text, The Amiga Sucks, Got Time for a Game of Asteroids. Not so many things in here that took my fancy this week. The watch, not really interested. That's the watch that plays Asteroids. It doesn't really play Asteroids, and it's bloody expensive. The Amiga Sucks is a promotion, really, of Kim Justice, which I watched, and to be quite honest, they don't really advertise smaller channels too much. I wish Neil would possibly promote Mamemeister, say, a smaller channel, that because he goes always to the well of people that he knows an awful lot about. I don't say that he doesn't have respect for those, and but it's just that I always find that promotion of smaller ones would be so beneficial to those people. Plus, they do things in different ways now. They don't do them in the same people that go around all of the sort of like computer meetups that are on once or twice a year. They're the same people talking the same stuff. I don't want to take anything away from Kim Justice. I respect Kim Justice and I like her channel. It's just that mentioned all the time, doesn't need the publicity. People know all about it already. So what you're talking about is just, a subject matter that people know about already. And of course, you even mentioned yourself, Neil, that every console, every computer had its degree of sucks, crap games, absolutely bloody awful. The Amiga doesn't have to get a kick in sometimes on your channel as well, I will have to say, even though I know that you all love it. So I let it go by, but it's just that I would say, if you want to shake up your channel a bit, promote some of the smaller ones. All You Need Is Text was a little bit about Infocom and text adventures and all of that sort of stuff. Great. Text adventures are actually being mentioned a little bit more these days, which will please Denny, I'm sure, who has his own channel and has already done some text adventures on his own channel. So watching a little documentary film like Get Lamp is definitely one I'd recommend people do. It's a fantastic little documentary. And text adventures were such a big thing in my past. Not everybody. I know that people go, oh, I can't do this. It's not the type of thing that you'd want to stream. I disagree. You can talk about all of the stuff that brought that game to life. There's a lot of things that talk about how the porn came about from a developer's point of view. Then you can show all the different versions that are out there of that game. The Amiga version, the PC version, the 64 version. The technical difficulties they had of trying to not resurrect, but keep alive text adventures during a period where they were going out of favour. So much subject matter. Not really mentioned in that discussion. But still, had a ball listening to This Week in Retro. And Tecmo, well, he did something called the Bang & Olufsen Boombox. The only one that Bang & Olufsen did. Bang & Olufsen to me was a company that, I'd aspired to be able to buy stuff back in the day, like Bose speakers and all of that sort of stuff. I've actually got a Bang & Olufsen tablet, believe it or not. It's actually a HP tablet in conjunction with Bang & Olufsen for the speakers that are in there. Fantastic tablet, my God. So quick, so powerful. It's got my Windows 11 on it, believe it or not. So that's great. So those are the two I normally watch. These are the ones that came up in my alerts. They are chronologically gaming, and thanks to Denny, as I said, he introduced me to this channel last year. He's going through every game ever made, and he's going to play the lot, and he's up to November 82. Can't wait for him to get to 83. It seems the closer he gets to Christmas, like November 82, the more this is taking a long time to get through, especially when you consider how many Japanese games there are. My God. Then we've got, the next one I watched was My Mate Vince. This was a curiosity. I've seen lots of these videos before. They are Amazon customer returns fixed to make a profit. I like them because I like to see how irons are fixed and how, you know, speakers are fixed and all of that sort of stuff, and the deduction on where it thinks it might have gone wrong when they take it to bits, you know, where they check the continuity and that with multimeters and stuff. I love all that. Not for everybody, but I like those. Then there was Marvel Entertainment, which actually brought out their Fantastic Four new movie trailer called First Steps. That's been a discussion point now since that's been coming out. Some people that are into their comic movies are intrigued to know what the new Fantastic Four movie might be like, and this trailer seems to be quite well received. Then there's one that we've already mentioned before, well done, Ponder, which was the Gadget Show with their comment, "Is VR dead?" So of course that got me interested, and to be quite honest, we discussed all of that a little bit in the section where I was talking with Colin, so that's definitely worth a watch. Then something fun came up from a channel called Century 21 Films. Century 21 Films. It was called The Return of Hartley Hare from Pipkins. Yes, it's just a comedy little thing like they did with Rainbow, where they've got the puppets or as close to the puppets back as possible, possibly a guest presenter, and they did it in the style of what Pipkins was like back in the 70s, and it was just fun to watch. I really like that. I put a little link to that in my own Discord. I thought it was that funny. And then something that I've used to watch a lot of, haven't watched for absolutely ages because I'm out of that industry, and I've started to watch again, and it makes me want to get, I'm getting a bit itchy feet in regards to maybe doing it again, and that is there was a channel called it's called Mark Collects Things. Mark Collects Things. He opened trading cards. He did an unboxing of trading cards. I used to watch these all the time because I used to love collecting trading cards. It's where you buy a box of them. Some people buy pallets of them, but you buy multiple boxes. You open the box up, you open the packets up, you see what's the contents of them, you see whether that guy that opens them up on camera gets a base set and what chase cards he got. You get to see what the cards look like. You get to see what the numbering system is like, because not necessarily if you buy a box is a full pack, full base set of cards is in each box, which means that you have to buy multiple boxes for. Now I pulled out because the boxes started to become very expensive. They were over £100 compared to the American RRP price, which was below $100, and that was because of the market at the time. And to be quite honest, the returns I was getting in regards to base sets per box didn't make it viable for me anymore. But I started to watch those and I got itchy feet again. So yeah, I might be actually doing that again, but it is expensive. My God, I pulled out of the statue market. I pulled out of the trading card market. Maybe I might just revisit it for a month. I don't know. But I did get massive enjoyment watching them opening those cards and seeing what cards were in there and how many doubles they got and so forth. It was such a fun thing to watch this week. Now some of my friends, there's Ian Hill, the Ramblings, as you know, I do a live stream with him on Wednesdays, and oh my God, look, I show it all the time. He takes up that much on my pad. Look at that. Jesus, man, calm down. Jesus, it's more than one a day. But anyway, he's done top crime films 1961 to 1967, Doctor Who 4 to Doomsday review, X-Files Season 3 Episode 13 review, It Came From Beneath the Sea review, Far From the Madding Crowd review, Slade, the album Slade music review, and Alive With Me on Wednesday. What more can you say? We had a really grand time, I tell you, on that. Definitely a channel to bookmark, definitely a channel to watch, especially as I'm on it. Self-promotion there. And just a fun time, and something that you will see in your alert box on YouTube every day if you do watch a few of his episodes, and you won't be disappointed. Then we get to my friend Playtendoguy, who did a couple of videos this week. He got a couple of steelbooks this week, Red Dawn and Project Silence. So he did an unboxing. My Project Silence doesn't arrive until tomorrow, so I can't really comment on that one, but it was great watching his video. And he did a Guilty Gear Strike, a new Switch game for the Guilty Gear series. He did an unboxing of it, which is one of those little shorts. So that was quite good. So definitely Pete, such a nice guy. Is, you know, I mean, he's just quite varied. I miss our chats, but to be quite honest, he's doing so well with his channel. It's just great to sort of like think about him talking to me while he's talking to the world, really, about some of his unboxings and stuff. So that's great. Mondo Chelovek Movies, or as I call him, the horror god. What can I say? Absolutely fantastic. He got some gifts from a person called Dave Ramsden. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong, Mondo. Always good to see somebody of the niceness of Mondo get some gifts. And I tell you what, some of the stuff that came out of that box, my God, I was so jealous about some of it. My God, absolutely gorgeous. And of course, Mondo is like that person who's just so educated in so many different areas of film. You've got to go and watch it. And he wants to promote to people things to avoid that he's fell into the trap of, you know. So, you know, don't do this like I did because you'll be disappointed, that sort of thing. Such a community bloke, definitely worth a watch. And then there's my old mate Jim Jam Movies, who did a out and about mini. So he just did a little mini going around charity stores and stuff. That's all I saw of his this week. I ran out of time, to be quite honest. I think he did a couple more. I do know that I tried to help him out this week. He wanted a video for something to add to his channel. I did that video. Unfortunately, the file size was large, and that's because I do everything at my PC. I don't do things on my camera phone. And so basically I couldn't send it to him. So I did all sorts of different ways. I took away the restrictions for the sharing link. There was a sharing link that was just for him. I basically tried to shorten it, but I didn't want to drop the resolution because I wanted it to stay sharp. I'm not prepared to diminish the recording quality, because that would then like make my channel look poorer in respect. And to be quite honest, the difficulty here is that his own email account blocks certain other people's email accounts. Now, I've got a Gmail account. He's got a Hotmail account, I think it was. I was sending the links to him. He said he never received one of them. I don't use Dropbox. He's not part of my Discord. Otherwise, I could have sent it there. So in the end, I did a 10-minute recording, which took 20 minutes of prep. So that's half an hour. Sent it 4 times from different email accounts. And at the end of the day, I must have spent over an hour and 10 minutes. And as much as Jim Jam said, can you re-record it? Really, to be quite honest, I spent an hour and 10 minutes, matey. And it's a shame because it's a video you're never going to get to see. and I'd have loved you to see it. I promoted your channel on it. I explained the reasons why I go to charity stores and why I got that, and I promoted 2 of them on there. And nobody's going to see the video. So, of course, I got very despondent about that. But it's not your fault, not my fault. It's just an awful lot of time for nothing. And you have to look at that from a point of view of, I got sick. I went, oh, I did all that work. My God. But Jim Jam Movies, what a guy. You gotta go and look at his channel. Just for the because of the fun aspect that he brings to his channel. It's just amazing. So that's my promotion really for you, Jim Jam, and we will be meeting up, I'm pretty sure, in the next month or so. The weather's coming around and I'm feeling so much stronger. So that's great. So less of the stuff now in regards to people that are on Mamemeister's Discord, my Discord, and the gaming side of things that I love to promote and watch. So this is what the section I called Your YouTube. And you've got Down the Rabbit Hole, who did 3 videos. 2 I've written down here. I think he did a 3rd one yesterday that I watched, but I didn't write down. It was Sweets from the Steveston Sweet Shop. Yeah, he's got a friend who sends gaming-related sweets like Tetris sweets and Space Invader sweets. And he tries them out and tells you whether they taste nice or not. That's nice, isn't it, eh? I can't get them over here, but they're nice. He also did a pinball Duke Nukem Balls of Steel, which was brilliant because it's video pinball. And he's got the same controller as I've got, the X Arcade. So if you ever want to know what the X Arcade looks like, because I can't show you from my camera point of view, look at his video. You'll see it there. It's got a trackball, 2 joysticks, loads of buttons, but it's also got flipper controls on the edges. So it's a brilliant controller stick. It's the X Arcade. Absolutely fantastic. And the 3rd one was a game for the Atari VCS, and it was a paddle game of Pong, but with a difference. And I thought this was going to be absolutely atrocious, right? But the more I watched it, the more I wanted to play this game. There were so many different versions. It was fantastic. And to be quite honest, that was what I think my favourite of the 3 videos this week. And I haven't got it even written down. Absolutely fantastic. You have to go over to Down the Rabbit Hole. Look at the variety there. You got sweets, pinball, and a new homebrew VCS game. I mean, what more can you say? And last week he did Star Trek, and the week before he was doing Dungeons and Dragons. Marvelous. Definitely worthy of a subscription. Over to my friend at Robert's Retro Gaming. And again, my God, the output here, you got Subnautica, episodes 9 and 10, which I'm so glad he's doing because not because I bought it, but because I think he's getting into it. And I've told him that I think really what he needs to do now is build a habitat. So build his own base. I think he then needs to concentrate on getting some resources, especially diamonds, because he needs a laser cutter. Once he's got the laser cutter, he will be able to get a couple of things in there that will build his base and allow him to build some alien technology type things. Like he's found some eggs that are on this under the sea of this planet, which he's going to be able to hatch and all that sort of stuff. So that's going to be great. He did his Minecraft episodes 131 and 132, and as you know, I love Minecraft. We even had a Minecraft server together in the early days, so that's great. And he played some a ZX Spectrum game of Bombjack, and he played some Atari 8-bit games, Gladiator and Weisel. And to be quite honest, all of those videos were entertaining. Definitely worth a watch. He's had a couple of trolls as well, which is a shame. I think he doesn't deserve that. So I'm hoping things turn around for him. And then so salute, my friend, and please keep up the good work. And I'm so enjoying your Subnautica series. Absolutely fantastic. And then we move to Steve's Gaming, and oh my God, the little bastards come out with how much? Slow down, man. Told you. You're as bad as that Ian Hill. little git. No, seriously, what a channel. He's doing a series called How Not to Play Elden Ring. He's up to episode 13, so it's episode 7 to 13 this week. Home Soft Discs, that's the Atari 8-bit multi games on a disc series. Episodes or discs 35 to 37. So there must be like 15 games there amongst those 3 discs. Marvellous. 15 discs worth of games for you to watch him die a lot in. It's like heaven, really. He played a couple of Commodore 16 games, Trouble for Bubble and Jet Bricks, for which I'm not a big fan of the Commodore 16, but Jet Bricks I enjoyed. But always enjoyable to watch any video he's done. He did a Spectrum version of Bruce Lee RX, which I've seen loads of times. But it was still fun to watch him play. I'm not a big fan of the Spectrum version, even the modern retakes of Bruce Lee on the Spectrum. I think the other versions that are out there, the 64, the Atari, I think there's even an Amstrad version, are better than the Spectrum version, even with it having a rewrite. But fun. And then he's continuing his series of great music, awful games. And that's that series where we used to buy a Commodore 64 game, load it up, listen to the music, and never play the game because the game was pants. I'm not going to spoil to you what this game was this week. I found that game not bad, but nowhere near even good, if you see what I mean. It's that in between of dog poo and average, right? It's somewhere in between, right? But maybe it's because I managed to figure out how to play the game, and I think that's half the battle with that. But that would have been a game I would have loaded up and just listened to the music. I'm going to mention my friend Colin Jones, aka Ponder, because even though I didn't watch his stuff this week, it's only because I couldn't find anything on his YouTube channel, but he has a Twitch channel, and so therefore I need to promote him. That Colin Jones or Ponder, if you do any of those searches, if you do have a Twitch or watch Twitch stuff, do go and have a little look at his stuff. He does high score kerfuffles on there, live stuff, and so definitely worthy of your attention. Then there's my mate LFC Gamer and Vlogs. He did a vlog yesterday and answered 5 of my questions, and did his normal talk about what's going on in his life. Always entertaining, but then again, I'm biased towards blogs because I do one myself. You're watching it. So there we go. And then there's my mate Mamemeister, who constantly always is pushing the envelope in regards to getting some stuff out there. He did his normal waffle. He was going to do a live stream yesterday to answer the age-old question, which is better, which is the best 8-bit system of the time. Okay. But unfortunately life events occur and he couldn't do that. But I believe he's still going ahead with his stream tonight, which is his normal Sunday stream. Those are always entertaining, definitely worthy of your attention. Please go and see my mate Mamemeister. And that's the end of the vlog. Till I show you what I bought this week. And as I said, it's slim pickings. Slim pickings at the moment. There's next to nothing. But we'll go to overhead cam and I'll show you the things that turned up this week. They are Star Wars Anushka and Ashoka, sorry. It was not terrible, but not the best in the Star Wars. It's season 1. It's a nice steelbook. Bit costly when you consider really what's out there at the moment. But if you're into your Star Wars Series 1 and you enjoyed it, the steelbook is probably the way to go. And then there's the one that I told you about, Playtendoguy did an unboxing of. Look, it's Red Dawn. If you look on there, look, you got Patrick Swayze, Leah Thompson, Charlie Sheen. You got some great actors in there. It's a 1980s film. It's like start of a World War III type thing. It's very good. But look at this. It's embossed, raised. It's got that window, that sort of like it bezel. A lovely sort of red and yellowy cover. And on top of that, it's a fantastic film. And that came out this week. And the film that he did another unboxing of, my one arrives on Monday, so I can't show you that one. And that's the end of that. So I'm going to see if I can see if the video is working.
I'd like to lead you all in a little prayer.
And it is. So we'll drop to the trailers and what I've watched this week. Hopefully you'll enjoy these. These are films I watched this week or films that you've just seen me show off that arrived this week. So we'll go to media playback. There you are. Just got to move this a little bit along like that. And I'm going to shut up and let you watch the trailers. A couple of these in here are old, but I tell you what, fantastic films, especially the end one. So I'm going to shut up now and you're going to watch some stuff.
It was last October. It was raining, and I hit something. I got out the car and I looked around. I checked, I didn't see anything, and I figured it was a deer that ran off.
Okay, what's the problem?
I got called for jury duty. The Kendall Carter case?
1 year ago, on October 25th, the defendant, James Scythe, and his then girlfriend, Kendall Carter, they had a fight. And he's gonna pay for what he did.
What are you telling me?
Maybe I didn't hit a deer.
Let me just ask you one thing. Did you guys ever look at any other suspect? You know what to do.
What's going on here, my friend?
This is the emergency broadcast system. We are under attack by conventional forces of the Russian army. It is believed the lead waves were disguised as commercial charter flights. Communications have broken down with other parts of the country. Large areas of the Midwest may have been overrun.
They know who all of you are. They're looking for you.
You're 40 miles behind enemy lines.
I just want to go home. They took a lot of people away.
Where's my dad, Mr. Eckert?
What if love somebody, Andy? I'm gonna die before it happens.
George! They're gonna kill us! All of us!
So why should we be different?
Because we live here!
Not bad for a bunch of kids, huh?
Mama'd be real proud.
Doesn't it seem that it's about time to get back on your feet again?
I'm not going back. I'm not going to be a stockbroker. I just want to think. I need to think.
Think about what?
I'll tell you when I start thinking.
He wants to be by himself right now.
It makes perfect sense to me.
But you won't find the answers in a book. You'll have to go there.
So you want me and everyone else to just go on, sitting here waiting for you to figure out the meaning of life? I was in love with Larry Darrell, but you had to take him away to go and find the meaning of his goddamn life.
Look, I got a second chance at life. I am not going to waste it.
I've never stopped thinking about you.
The path to salvation is narrow and as difficult to walk as a razor's edge.
I'd like to lead you all in a little prayer. Dear Lord, may our feet be swift, may our bats be mighty, and may our balls be plentiful. And Lord, I just like to thank you for that waitress in South Bend. You know who she is. She kept calling your name.
This summer, Tom Hanks is managing the impossible, the Rockford Peaches.
Says girls can't play baseball. Who says women can't throw? Slide! Slide! Thank you! Give them a league of their own to play. Then stand back and get out of their way.
That sounded good.
So let's all root for the girls' team. Let's give the poor coach a break.
You're still missing the cutoff man. Now, that's something that I would like you to work on before next season.
'Cause it's Flash, we're having a bash at the old ball game.
Got him! Columbia Pictures would like to take you out to the ball game for an all-star comedy.
They'll pay you $75 a week.
We only make 30 at the dairy.
Well then, this would be more, wouldn't it?
The manager, Tom Hanks.
Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
The catcher, Gina Davis.
What do you say we slip in the back seat and you make a man out of me? What if I smack you around for a while? Can't we do both?
The pitcher, Lori Petty.
I made it. I'm a Pete! A Rockford Pete.
The scout, John Lovitz.
Are you coming? See how it works is, the train moves, not the station.
And batting cleanup, Madonna.
What if my uniform bursts open and oops, my bosoms come flying out?
You think there are men in this country who ain't seen your bosoms?
A League of Their Own.
All right. God knows we have a game. It's not like any of this helps, believe me.
Directed by Penny Marshall.
And the last one there, A League of Their Own, is a little favourite of mine. Always put that on for a laugh. It's one of those ones with a lot of pathos. the last 25 minutes of that film, full of action, and then a lot of, well, sentiment, almost crying, believe it or not, when you see all of the people that were involved in the baseball league for those 11 years, older, you know, but you can sort of like still see them, you know, and you find out that some of the people have now passed on, died. It really sort of like chokes you up. Penny Marshall, fantastic director. You know, like I say, I remember Penny Marshall, I think, from Laverne and Shirley as an actress, and then did some great films. Awakenings, I think she did, is one of my favourite films still now, even today. And then, of course, you've got Bill Murray in The Razor's Edge, which is a book, I believe. A 1984 film, which is the same year as Ghostbusters, and yet that one is a very drama, World War related film. A film about discovery of yourself. Just some great stuff there. Juror 2 is obviously a newer film, a film that was at the pictures. Makes you think a little bit in regards to coming clean about things. And Red Dawn, I'm looking forward to watching because that arrived this week and I can't quite remember it, but it looks right up my street with if you were invaded by a foreign country, you know, in this day and age. So, yeah, hope there's some stuff there for you to watch, some things to ponder over. You're going to see me next week. It's a blog, and I think it's year 4. Oh, my God. Should I be changing something about my channel? Possibly. Things for me to ponder over. Ha! Pun intended, no. Things for me to think about and maybe phase in. I don't think it's something that I'll probably be able to do in a week. I've been thinking a long time, but there's lots of things that I've been meaning to do, like an introduction for 4 years, but I'm just not that there yet with regards to using software to build up a front-end introduction to, say, my blog or anything else. But I'll get there. I'll get there. I suppose I need it to be sort of like something that's needed, and the numbers I've got at the moment are just not there really. If I'd have been in the much higher bracket now, I would have done it by now, because I'd have felt you need to progress and grow. And with that, I'm just going to say salute, and I hope you've enjoyed this. My God, they're getting longer and longer. I'll try and shorten it, but you know me, I try every week to shorten it, can't shut my gob up. So with that, salute, till next week. Bye bye.